Hey guys, welcome to vlog number 8. It is super snowy, super cold, and super windy in Toronto. So I took it upon myself to have a bit of a craft day, and I'm excited to share it with you. As the title suggests, we are replicating a beverage from 9,000 years ago, which is pretty cool. But before we get into trying it, I just want to give you a bit of context on where this beverage is from in the world and how it was made and, how it came to be essentially. So located in Central East China is a small province called Hunan, and within Hunan is Jiahu. So Jiahu is a city where there was a bunch of burial sites that archaeologists have found that seem to be dated back to 9,000 years ago. And when they dug up these sites, they found these clay jars, and inside the clay jars they found reminiscence of a fermented beverage, which from an archaeology point of view is like super cool, because that means that it is the oldest alcoholic beverage that has been discovered in the world. And what's even cooler about it is they were able to work it backwards, and they were able to figure out what was put in these jars to actually make it ferment and what the ingredients were used to create this beverage, which is what has given us the recipe today to replicate this beverage from 9,000 years ago. Now, to give this beverage a bit of context and to show you where it came from, I'm just gonna bring us back 2.5 million years. So 2.5 million years ago is the Paleolithic time, and that extends right up until 10,000 BC, which is where we go into the Mesolithic times. From the Mesolithic times is where we discover the first use of tools, but mostly made out of stones, or an axe, but mostly made out of rock. And then right after the Mesolithic time is the Neolithic time. So the Neolithic time is it's the first time that we see civilizations start to come together and understand agriculture and the domestication of animals to help them plow fields. Really the first time we see any kind of governing structure in society itself. So when we talk about this beverage that we're gonna sample today, it's not necessarily like an old wine. We're dealing with something that came from the brink of society, which to me is just super cool. Obviously we can't travel back in time, and we can't go back then and see what times were like, but I do think that it's super neat that we have the ability to kind of replicate something from that time and era, and to have the option to, try the exact same thing that they were drinking back then, which to me is a really neat kind of experiment and a really neat, way to spend a snowy day in Toronto. So now that you understand where the beverage has come from, I'll get into the ingredients. So what it's actually made out of is it's not really a sake, it's not really a beer, it's not really wine. It's a bit of a mixture of all of those things combined. So when we look at it, it has rice, it has hawthorn berry, honey, chrysanthemum, sorghum syrup, and then yeast and water. Now, much like how sake is made, this rice has actually been inoculated with something called koji. And koji is a mold that it eats the starch in the rice itself and converts that starch into a sugar, which later then the yeast is able to eat, and it converts that sugar into an alcohol, which is where you get the alcoholic fermentation for this grog itself. Also, there is honey in there and sorghum, which is also just straight sugar, which will also convert. Now, I went ahead and I already inoculated the koji into the rice, and I've mixed the rice, and I boiled everything down to sanitize it or pasteurize it. And now we're left with this, which is fermenting, and it will ferment for about 2 more weeks here. And after that's done, then I'm gonna put it through something called cold stabilization. So I'm gonna try and, filter it out and fin it. So I'm gonna rack off the top, which is just a really fancy way to say that I'm gonna try and separate the solids from the liquids, so we get somewhat of a clear kind of Neolithic grog. And then the final step is I'm going to then bottle it, and I'm gonna add just a tiny bit of honey to each bottle, and I'm gonna seal it with a crown cap or any kind of sturdy enclosure. And what that's gonna allow it to do is that's gonna allow it to ferment a tiny bit more inside of the actual bottle itself. But because the yeast is gonna be eating that sugar, that sugar's byproduct is going to be alcohol and CO2, and with the CO2 having nowhere to go or escape out of the bottle, it's naturally going to dissolve back into the liquid, creating what we call as a second fermentation, or kind of traditional method sparkling wine, and that is what's going to give the carbonation to our actual drink. So for now, we have 2 weeks to wait, and I will touch base with you then, and if there's anything cool I can show you along the way, I'll be sure to update you. All right, you guys, it's been 2 weeks now of fermenting. There's absolutely zero sugar left in this carboy itself. I did try and separate the liquids to solids, as you can see here. That looks like it's the best that we can get it to, which I'm totally fine with and happy with. So our next steps here is we're gonna siphon it out. We're gonna put it into this bottle here, which has a enclosure that will allow me to seal it, put a bit of honey in it, and then let it sit for 2 more days so it'll ferment again and create carbonation in the beverage itself.
Day 2.
All right, everybody, welcome back. This is now 2.5 weeks later from the initial start of this project. I've invited Miho with us to try the beverage.
Hi, everyone. How are you?
So what we're gonna do today is go ahead and open it and just sample it, see what it tastes like. There is still a bit of rice left in it, but that's fine. It's certainly still heavily carbonated as well.
Yeah, lots of bubbles.
Lots of bubbles.
Lots of bubbles, which we like.
Okay, so looking at it, here I'll move it a little closer. You can definitely see the carbonation in it. It's not 100% clear. I didn't expect it to come out 100% clear, but I'm sure their beverage is back in the Neolithic times. Also, we're not 100% clear, so that's totally cool, as this is a replication video of the beverage itself. Should we smell it?
Smell it. Smells like soy sauce.
Yeah, it does actually. It has a lot of kind of like miso characteristics to it.
Yeah.
But that makes a total like 100% sense, because when you're making a miso paste or when you're making soy sauce or rice wine, you're taking that koji spore and you're putting it into the rice. So I mean, the base of this beverage is actually the same as the base of miso soup or the base of soy sauce itself. I'm also getting a lot of kind of like bitter characteristics, and I think that that's coming from the alcohol. So I get a lot of almost like nectarine pith or like pear skin from the outside, and there's also a bit of florality in here as well. So
yeah,
should we try it?
Yeah.
It also smells significantly alcoholic. I did take the measurement of the must weight before, and the specific gravity of that was 20, and then I took it after the first fermentation, and the specific gravity of that was about 9. So that would indicate that the alcohol in this beverage is about 11%. So it's definitely on the higher side for sure.
Cheers.
Cheers. Let's try it.
Cheers. Super good.
It's good. I mean, I think it turned out well, but it's quite bitter as well, and it's coming from the alcohol. Also, the fact that there is 0 sugar in this, like it is 100% bone dry. That yeast ate all of the sugar left in the carboy, so we're left with a very, very dry beverage.
And it's super grainy as well.
Yeah, there's kind of I'm also getting that, like it almost tastes like beer in some ways, like kind of grains like wheat or barley, even though neither of those things are in here. But
have you heard of gobo? It's like the root vegetable. It tastes like that.
Gobo?
Gobo in Japanese. That's Japanese. But
no, I haven't, but we should definitely look it up or try
it.
it.
It tastes like this.
All right, so to kind of like sum it up, I guess, it has the characteristics of, it has kind of like a beer-like quality to it. It's definitely high alcohol. I would say that one of the predominant things in this beverage is it's definitely bitter, right? And it lacks a bit of complexity, and it lacks a bit of, you know, fruit in the actual drink itself, or fruit characteristics. And it certainly is lacking acidity. So I think if I was to have gone back in time, I would have probably put something acidic into this beverage just to make it a little bit more refreshing and a little bit, you know, more lively on the palate itself. But anything you want to add?
No, it's good actually.
Yeah, it's not bad, to tell you the truth. I mean, I don't know.
It tastes like vegetables and grain.
Yeah,
So.
maybe root vegetables.
Yeah, root vegetables. It's just mixture of those. It's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how much of it I would drink, but but for an experiment, it's pretty cool. So
Yeah.
thank you for watching. Make sure that you like and subscribe to our videos. We love making them. They're a lot of fun. This one especially was cool to make. It was neat to replicate something from so long ago, and you know, we want to keep making them. So if you have any ideas on what you'd like to see us do, please comment below. But for now, we will see you later. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.